Hello everyone, my name is Shiburis and Happy New Year! The name of the game this time around is consistency. Vampires. You love them, you loathe them, but one cannot deny that the suck-hungry undead are a staple of modern fiction, having evolved in some way or another throughout countless cultures across history. Honestly, Vitae Thief would be a better qualifier, it's just that vampire is much easier to say and we all kinda get what it means. At their core, they represent key tenets of the human psyche, and some of our most primal fears. The unknown. Shadow, if you will. Deception within the alluring. This is alluring? The concept of a sexy vampire man sure has evolved in the last 60 odd years. Masculinity has peaked. Life-draining parasites hell-bent on sucking the essence from all that breathes. And while it seemed an odd choice of aesthetic, they were perhaps the best option to embody the Makuta. Like, you know, once they were retconned into a brotherhood instead of a single dude. I remember just seeing the trailer for these guys, then checking out bioniclestory.com, and getting an eyeful of this dapper gentleman right here. God, I wanted him so badly. And he was always sold out. Absolutely sold me on the Makuta being vampires. And speaking of the Blue Devil himself, I made a community post about him and was amazed to see just how many of you thought Vampro was a chick. And well, I kinda get it. He's the blue one, he's got a blue Matoran on his back, and he has got that suave-looking mask with the big old crotch cushions. Daddy, he is hungry, feed him. But you know something? What if we ran with that? What if we took that vague, feminine appeal that Vampra seems to have and redesigned him to draw it to its logical conclusion, to transform him into the alluring and fatal attraction that most modern bloodsuckers are? A trap, if you will. And so he said unto his followers, "Take this, all of you, and run with it. This is my trope. The trope of the new and everlasting succulent." Let us begin the build. I actually have a parts list ready now. If this video does well enough, all of them are gonna be like this going forward. As we start out with the upper torso, I'm gonna give a quick shout out to my top patrons. Jake Glass, Salim, Levism314, Norda Marmanwin, Noma, Redex, Haru Mochizuki, Joseph Wheeler, Takeda Takichiri, Spinal Spiral, Sleepy Hot Cocoa, and Not a Mushroom. And a big, sopping wet thank you to my newest enablers, Freefall Toaster, Razor Sage, and Fart Kitty. Now back to the build, it bears noting that a lot of the parts that I am working with are compromises, and there's a lot you could do to harmonize the color scheme for yourself. In fact, I've already done a lot of just that within the parts list. Some of the colors aren't even relevant, such as the blue Technic bar here, which is almost completely hidden. I do think I would suggest getting these socket joints in red. Now there will be points where I bring in components that are mostly built, but don't hesitate to just pause the video and copy them. Also, you're gonna make a mirror duplicate of these and other components as we go forward. If I do end up missing any steps, please let me know in the comment section. I will be all too happy to explain it to you. It's a little hard to see with the camera quality, I'm sorry about that, but make sure you flip down this piece before proceeding. You'll need to plug this thing into it anyway. Make sure it's nice and secure. Pause and dissect, drop it on there, slap together an assembly like this, pause and dissect, carefully put 2 of these on there, then try to avoid flipping it over, they'll fall out if you do. Carefully place it on the peg above. I had to go back and record this because I missed a step, but make sure to place a 2x1 here to lock them both in. Pause and dissect, slot it in here, and lock it in with a 1x2 peg. Pause and replicate, slot these into both of those at the bottom, cap at the top with a washer. Do the same on the other side. Make some just like these, plug here and here. Load up a 1x7 with this junk, and place it on top of those ones that we just installed. You'll need 2 of these doodads, place them on either side where this L-shaped piece juts out. Make yourself a 1x5 lollipop, lock those in and cap it off with another ball. Smack some of these together, slide them onto the left and right flanks at the back. Grab 2 of these tiny panels, and whatever these are, place them on either side like so. Get 2 of these curved dark blue slopes, and plug them in on either side. Pause and dissect. Blank the trans blue Bow-Rock eyes on either side of the torso, just above the slopes. Scalp Turok and mount his head at the end of this 1x2. Then secure that assembly with the trans neon Bow-Rock eye. Grab the left and right variants of Nuparu's armor and use it to flank either side of the chest. Then finish off the chest with these 2 Glitorian necks. You might have to dig a part separator or something in there to brace against the stud stopper so you can fit them in all the way. Moving on to the lower torso. Make yourself a long lollipop with stopper and fit it into a toe hand. Turn some Vaki hips into a pin cushion, feed in a black lightsaber rod, and use that to secure the assembly. To make that hip curve, pause and dissect. Then you're going to want to fit one of these onto it, followed by one of these, which slots in right there. Pause and dissect. Fit it atop the end with the rounded friction bit. Use a bent lift arm to sandwich the middle piece. Do it all again in the other direction, and then secure them to the pins on the master part. Get yourself a 1x5, pause and replicate. Slide this on down here, smack a Metro groin on there. Put a black stud on top of a half pin with friction ridges, shove it in there. Take a dark blue Paraka torso and plug it into the bottom. And finally, we're gonna stick these 2 together. Stick a silver disc on top of a friction half pin and give him a nice outie. Bring in the dreaded CCBS and put 2 of these arms together. You're going to fit them on the back of the hips, right here and here, which will finish off the lower torso. Onto the thighs, we're going to start by skewering a rover wheel with a mid-axle stopper, cap it off on the inner side with a washer, smack an assembly like this at the top, pause and replicate, fit one of these on the middle peg, fit one of these at the top, and then fit one of these down here, and cap it off with another bent lift arm. Fit that into the bottom of the wheel. Re-engineer yourself this bizarre construction I have here, plug it into this lift arm, cap it off with an identical lift arm, make yourself one of these, plug it in at the bend, and connect it to that exposed pin on the previous assembly. Secure the other end with another one of these, throw a rounded 2-sided friction pin on the opposite side of that blue one we have sticking out, thread this bent lift arm through the wheel. We're going to jerry-rig that bitch and keep it from sliding out with one of these 1x3 rounded friction axles. Flank it on either side with one of these here and here, stick a 1x2 into both of them, then fit a Stronius pauldron into them before pushing them both down. Get another bent lift arm, pause and replicate, fit it right here and push close the black 1x2s. Grab a blue Anika pauldron with a black 1x3, fit it in just above that last assembly and push it closed. You're going to fit it back here and then secure it with another black 1x3. Pause and replicate, carefully wiggle it in there. Grab one of these and shove it on the opposite end. Copy this, put one of these stoppers here. Take an L and slide it onto there. You will win one day, my king. Take this axle connector and slide it onto there, secure it with a bushing. Grab a Mata hand with a friction extender and slide it onto that one. Use this dandy little construction to bridge the inner and back part of the thigh. Make sure that it connects with that blue 1x3. Then take another blue 1x3 with one of these things on it, carefully jam it in there. Take another little bent lift arm and use it to secure those exposed axles and pins. Lock in that front lift arm with a black 3x1. Further secure those remaining axles with one of these. Pause and dissect. Just found out that this is called a spacer. Put it on there. Slide it onto the top of that lift arm L, and secure it with another 1x2 thin lift arm. Then secure this Hero Factory torso armor to that exposed through ball. Pause and follow carefully. Put together an assembly like this. Plug the friction axle into this space down here. Unplug this axle spacer and plug it in here to make it easier to attach. Slap together this assembly, make another one. Plug them into either side of the lower thigh. Pause and dissect, pause and dissect. Fit this one through here, and secure it with a 1x3 friction pin. Pause and dissect, plug that in here. Load up a 1x9 like so. Jam it on top of that assembly so you have this. Line up a perpendicular double split at the end like so, then secure it with an assembly like this. Grab yourself a 1x5 half lift arm, and smack it on top of those protruding half pins. Pause and replicate, throw it onto these exposed pins. Just gonna call this an H piece because that's what it looks like. Plug it in up here. Next you want to put together an assembly like this, and place it here. Smemk. Plug it in at the exposed axle, turn a 1x8 into a toothbrush, pause and dissect, slip it onto there, then slip that onto here, cap off the other end with a matching bow rock eye, grab a small bent lift arm and plug the projection over here, cap off all those exposed pins with a 1x9, shove a 3/4 pin in the third hole down on this side, slap together one of these, shove it onto there, attach this modified lift arm, cap it off with another half thick 2x1 lift arm, get another one of those with 2 black 1x2 axles in it, shove it in here, and cap it off with another, pause and replicate, slide it in next to this one, cap it off the end, stack another half 1x2 on top of it, do the same on the other side. Load up a half thick 1x5, then shove in a 1x2 axle wedged inside this rubbery part. This will be extremely important going forward, considering the rubberized portions of this build make it possible for Vampra to, actually stand. Pause and dissect, place it right here to fill that gap. We'll apply another 1x5 so it doesn't swing around. Next, we'll need 2 of these curved claw pieces, fit them on either side of the build. Get a small panel piece with 2 of these pin spacers on it. Toss it on that H piece to start closing up empty space, then do the same thing on the other side. Fit a 1x4 with stopper at the top of this bar right here. We're going to add some modest curvature by throwing some Paraka armor onto the side. Grab yourself a 1x7, pause and replicate. Make sure the bottom pin plugs in just beneath that gray axle at the top. Pause and replicate without snapping the cheap, brittle plastic. Grab the shoulder armor with a 1x4 wedged into the side. Push that axle in place. Get 2 of these half lift arms with 1x2 axles, and use them both to secure that shoulder armor to the brittle joint. Grab some bow rock eyes with red 1x2s, and flank the joint piece. Carefully plug it into the ball joint here. Modify a 5x1 beam like so. You're going to place this on the axle but not the pin. You'll notice I'm just holding it in place. Pause and dissect. Slide the bottom one into the tip of the bar. Modify another 5x1. Place it the same way as the first. Use this spacer axle in dark blue if you have it. Thread the bottom of the bent lift arm and connect a similar assembly to the bar on the other side. Then cap it off with whatever kind of stud this is. I actually did this part backwards, so really do it in the other direction. Get the left and right version of these tiny panels and plug them in on either side. Push this back down. Then we will be using a 1x7 beam to finally bridge the back with the front. Pause and copy. Fit it into the middle pinhole. Modify a bent lift arm like so. Stick a 1x3 beam on it. Pause and dissect. Slap it onto the end here. Throw one of these onto the exposed axles. Connect that assembly here at the top. Then lock it in with another bent lift arm. Can you believe that this is the easy part? Finally, we're gonna close off that side with a 1x7 beam. Get 2 of these Mata hands, toss them on either side of the knee. Do not do what I did here, I put the second one in the completely wrong direction. It's supposed to match the first. Grab 2 of Kina's fins and slap them on either side where those exposed pins are. Think. With the creation of this tendon, our time in the first circle is almost over. Slide it onto the back of the exposed beam and push in the axle. Also, don't forget to put this Paraka thigh armor here. Pause and dissect, stick it on the knee. Next, grab a rounded mud guard with 2 pins in it like so. Yes, that is what it is called. Then you are going to want to place some spacer pins here and here. You're going to want to plug it into the axle hole on the toe arm and into the beam on the side here. Prepare for a lovely dopamine hit as you finally connect the calf and thigh via these ball joint connections. Slide this end of the tendon over the exposed axle hole and secure it with a 1x2 pin. I will do a quick demonstration here to show you how that tendon keeps the knee from swinging too far forward. With that, the leg is done. Now do it again the other direction. Because I know that will be complete torment on your psyche, I will upload the mirrored instructions in a separate build video. Alright children, it's time for the wings, buckle your fuckles. You're gonna start with a 1x13 beam. Load it up with a Mata foot, secured by a 1x2 on the 4th hole up. Also secure it with a 1x3. Place some pins at the end 1 stud apart and smack a Vizrek foot on them. Do the same on the other side with some 1x3 pins. Slap a 1x9 beam on the back. Next, grab a one-sided connector, stick a 1x4 in it, and then place 4 1x2 half lift arms on the end. Cap it off with this bent connector. Slap 2 more 1x3 friction pins onto the 1x9. Use that to secure the assembly, and then cap it off with another 1x9. Plug a Mari Matoran blade into the lift arms, and plug a 2-long axle with a reverse handle connector into the other side. Place 2 of these fancy half lift arms on either side. It should be noted that I accidentally stuck them on there backwards. Put 2 pins here and use them to connect this doodad. And with that, the easy part is over. Start by modifying a 1x15 beam so it looks like this. Stick a 1x7 beam at this end. It's gonna wobble. Trust the process, we'll fix it. Shove another 1x7 in the middle here and a final one at the end. Load a 1x15 beam with these pin spacers. Snap it in there. Place 2 regular pins here and here. Place some friction 1x3s down here and up here. Snap on a 1x15 beam with pin spacers placed on it like so. Pause and dissect. Snap it into place. Hang on, that shouldn't be there. Modify a 1x15 Technic beam like so. Place an adorable 1x2 lift arm up here. And place 2 half 1x3 lift arms down here. Do it again. Then you're going to use 2 of these hub connectors to marry them both. Ensure that the angle of that axle hole is not biased to either side, so that the following assembly fits at the correct angle. Throw on an 8, a double-sided spacer, connector. Throw on a 6, a double-sided spacer, connector. A 10, a double-sided spacer, connector. Then end the conga line with a 4. Put one of these in here. Plug a 1x3 pin here and here. Kiss the bride or the very feminine groom. Pause and dissect. Thread it through the spacer. Push this back just far enough to be able to insert a Mata hand, and cap it off with another fancy half lift arm. Smack a red ball up here. Go back to those axle spacers on the wing, mount a lift arm, put back on that axle spacer we removed earlier, and lift arm. Then cap each one of them with another lift arm. Mount one of these on the exposed pin, slide on one of these, add a connector with an axle, throw on a piston, add 2 1x3 friction pins, stick a 1x3 axle back here, add a 1x11 beam, snap, toss on an H-piece, another 1x11, add a 1x3 axle, throw on a 1x3 axle pin connector with a 1x3 pin, then another with a 1x3 axle, cap it off with 2 1x11 beams here and here, thread an 11 long soft axle through that piston and those connectors. The redundancies here will keep it from unplugging. Throw some of these together, bang. This decorative assembly is going to slide into the side of that Mata hand that we added earlier. Stuff a 1x2 in a bent connector, a 1x12, another bent connector, cap it off with a sword blade, and jam it into the bottom of the Mata hand. Pause and dissect, fit it right in there. Fit together a little assembly like this. Place an array of half-long friction pins and slide them in here. Grab a 1x3 axle pin and a regular pin and plug it into this lift arm. Cap them off with red or trans neon orange Borak eyes if you have them. Stick it right here. Toss another one here. Stuff a pin into a red Parak Cal shield. Put it right there. Smack a trans neon orange CCBS limb cover over that exposed through ball. To fill in the silhouette, we're going to put 2 of these panel pieces together. Smack them up with pins and then plug them into the back here. Fit a washer onto a 1x3 axle. Fit a wing onto it. Then you're going to slide this into the 1x3 half lift arms. Cap off the exposed axle with a black Technic disc and place a black Borak eye opposite of that. And finally, we can slide on the top half. Congratulations, it's a girl. To start off with the mid-wing, you're going to pause and copy. Red bushing, cap it off with another ratchet joint, put a washer on either side, modify a dark blue 1x15 Technic beam, smack a Rakshi calf on it, place another 1x15 on top, slide in this guy, slide in 2 5-long stopper axles, secure with a red washer and a dark blue bent connector, put a black spacer pin next door, pause and copy, put them next to the black spacer, pause and dissect, place it here, pause and copy, place it here. Make one of these, slip it in there. Fit that one with a friction pin. Next you'll want to grab this panel piece and affix 2 spacer pins to it. Lock it over those exposed pins. Grab a 1x3 axle pin hybrid and slip it in here. Put a regular pin above that. I've once again tragically misled you. This thing actually belongs one pin further down. Throw on an L-shaped lift arm. Toss a standard pin into that axle pin. Add another one of these trans neon orange lift arms and a bow rock eye. After that, you'll want a blue Marimatorin blade. We're gonna cap off the assembly with this long panel piece. Pin it, cap with a black end panel. Pin, axle pin. Finally, we'll slide on a 1x15 beam before attaching it to the main assembly. Ah, that's pretty. Modify this dark blue long panel. Slide an axle pin into the back. Connect one of these. Pause and dissect. Slip on a 1x2 half lift arm, make it neighbors with the axle pin, then slide one of Vampra's original wings into the bent connector, pin it, and that's going to attach right here at the bottom of the assembly. Double pin a little panel like this and plug it in here, friction extender. Grab yourself an 11 long flex axle with an axle connector on it, then attach another 11 long flex axle, cap it off with a one-sided axle connector with a pin in it, bendy. That's going to plug into the side of this little panel here on the main assembly. We're going to add a 1x3 beam with 2 pins in it down here to further secure the assembly. Should have done this earlier in all honesty. Starting in the wing pivot, pause and dissect. Throw on some of these. Snap a wing with an axle connector onto it. Pin the axle. Add a Vizirek foot. And finally, panel the lower arm. The wing is done! Though of course, I'll put the backward instructions for the other half in the full build video. Finishing off with the head and neck, you want to slap together an assembly like this, slap together an assembly like this as well, mirror it. You're going to need about 6 of these medium-sized panels modified like so. Slip them onto the flex tube. Cap with an end panel modified like so. Do it again in the other direction. Pause and dissect, place it here, pin that, connect them together. Bridge the pins up here with a 1x5 Technic bar. Use a half friction pin to secure an 11 long soft axle. Just shove it into the connector. Pause and dissect, plug them in there. Thank God this is almost over. Smoomsh. This gives us a very decorative false eye stock. Put a friction pin hybrid into whatever you call this thing, and throw a lift arm on the back. Slip that in here and secure it with a 1x6 axle. Flank with a 1x3 half lift arm. Slide in the eye stock at the top and secure it with another. Grab a 90-degree half lift arm and smoomsh it into the side. Pause and dissect. Add a black one-sided axle connector and a Mata hand with an axle. Cap it off with another dark 1x2 half lift arm. Plug another one but in red on this side. That's going to plug in here on the main assembly like so. Then you'll need 2 of these axle and pin connector toggle joint smooth. Denmark, please. Use the axle to lock them both in. Then cap everything off with a bent half lift arm. Get 2 trans neon orange discs and fit them on either side like so. To start on the frills, you're going to slap together an assembly like this and you're going to neatly fit it into those half pins right there. Grab 2 of these light blue wings and connect them each to the robot arms. Make sure you connect them at the direct middle because we are going to need that additional pole space in just a second. Put together 4 of these widgets, 2 dark blue, 2 black. Fit the dark blue down here and the black up here. Take a moment to pat yourself on the shoulder because we are almost done. Grab 2 non-friction axle pins and plug them into that space just behind the lift arm. This is going to let us mount the earrings. It is fine if they do not go in all the way. Pause and dissect, you'll need 2 of these. Fit them both on top of the exposed pins. Make sure to twist them around so they face the front. Bend back the frills to make way for an assembly like this. Pause and dissect. Carefully fit it into the lift arm right there. Inspect your handiwork to make sure that everything looks right. We're going to mount the CCBS rigging right here on top of the Mata hand. Bend. Grab this assembly from earlier. Plug the soft axle into the back of the single-sided axle connector on the back of the head. Follow up by connecting the bendy pipes on either side. It's a little hard to see on camera, but you'll figure it out. Grab these floating pipes and connect them to either side of the CCBS rigging. For its tight little throat, we're going to put together an assembly like this, which we will cap off with a CCBS armor piece. We are going to thread this through the CCBS rigging and plug it into the back of that friction axle. Once that is complete, all we need is the mask, and then you can inspect your handiwork. All that's left are the tiny arms and staff. Bonk, bonk. Grab this and fit it with 2 friction pins. After that, you'll want to fit it over the arm joint like so. Bink. Hands! Think. Wow! Fit it with a claw. This will be a wrist and palm assembly. Make yourself a thumb and mount it on there. Then plug the upper fingies into a stump. Finish off by fitting it onto the arm and giving it a quick twimst. Do it again the other way. Now for his staff. Bink, funk, bunk. Fit a sword piece into the exposed axle hole here. Top it with a cone. And end off the top with a small blade. Put together the pommel. Grab a bunch of 12 long axles with connectors. We're not doing anything fancy for the shaft. Cap it off with this pipe. Give head, give pommel. And we're ready to start assembling everything else. Grab the upper and lower torso. Carefully slide this exposed axle into this floppy bit back here. Finally snap in the ball joints. The lumbar support should work like so. Attach both melon crushers at the CCBS friction joint. Plug in both of these to get some needed support. Imagine your head right there. Attach both arms at the chest via the glutorian necks. Do some snow angels to make sure they work. Pretend you're a Soviet scientist as you connect these 3 key points of the neck at the back and these 2 at the front. Connect inner to outer wing via the Mata hand and this pin. Snap in the pivot arm up here. Give it a quick check. Connect the ratchet joints at the back. Plug this in, followed by the other side. And with that, we are done. With this, I have proved beyond a shadow of a doubt that I can build something that is actually compact. So long as you spell compact like this. Look, I get it. Folks have their preferences. I just happen to like my boys with hips that dox you and spill all your nation's secrets. I'm wanted for more than just student death. Also, he is really, really tall. Getting him to actually stand was an absolute nightmare. I thought that I might have to give up on the body plan that I wanted and settle for actual feet. But the strength of my fetish is strong, and I did not give up. Now, many of you out there might think that this build doesn't exactly fit his character. To which I must ask, what character are you talking about? Vampra perhaps got the most shaft out of anybody in the writing department. I am firmly of the belief that a character can say a lot without actually opening their mouth, but Vampra almost feels like he was written to disprove that. No charm, no tilt of the head, no witty glances, or even a dismissive roll of the eyes. People do not talk to him so much as they talk at him. He is credited with having discovered Cardinui, which I frankly find hard to believe, considering like, how the fuck? Like, did he just go up, poke a guy on the shoulder, and just jerk his head in one direction until they followed him all the way across the universe from Destral? Boy got no hands, I know he didn't write nothing. Mans was designed to check a box and sell a toy. 2008 was just the year of wasted potential. Kyrox and his rivalry with Mutrin ends there, they are both kill. Krika proving that being made of shadow wasn't necessarily evil. Boom, he's dead. And the rest of the Makuta? They're all dead too. Pterodax genocides all of them. A very, very nice thing to do to your fan base and all of their OCs, Greg. Thank you so much. Rant over. Now, naturally, some of you probably have questions as to some of the changes I have made with his design, particularly things like his stance. Well, Vampra just looks proud, honestly, in his default design. If I had to read something out of his drywall of a character, it would be that he is the Makuta version of Turaga Nuju. Like, not even kidding. He is just too good for you. Out of your league, so to speak. He will not waste the time, nor the energy, speaking to lesser beings. That being everyone else. The posture change, combined with his new and freakish height, make him tower above others with a natural sense of superiority. Another question you might ask, why did I get rid of the Tridax pod? I like the idea of him holding it like it's his precious. I did try a few designs to keep the launching ability, but it would have compromised the hell out of his silhouette too much. Also, I had this chest left over from my self-mock and I just really wanted to use it. Also, it really doesn't matter because the Kanohi Avsa can literally make Shadow Matoran. He didn't need the Tridax pod anyway. Thank you, Lego. He may as well have given it to Gavla, make transforming the other Avmatoran about 1,000 times easier. I also just really wanted to show off this revamp. It's by Arbitrary in our Discord server. Come hang out, we have a good time. I gotta agree that she makes a fantastic companion piece when you put them side by side. You may also be looking at him and thinking, he can't hold up his wings, can he, Sheeb? Absolutely not. They are easily the heaviest element of the build, and they saw several much heavier iterations before we came to this design here. What is with the earrings and the body paint? Characters are more than just their bodies or their masks. We all personalize our appearance to some degree. The earrings and tattoo here are that kind of agency made manifest. Frankly, Bionicle strayed way too far from its folk roots. There are countless cultures from around the world that use elaborate arm tattoos like this one here to express aspects of their personality and facets of their life. You can consider these additions as Vampra simply flaunting himself to the plebeians that he doesn't dare speak to. Guy looks good, and he knows it. Dirty slut.
Ow, but Sheeb! Didn't you say that painting harms his heresy?
Oh, for fuck's sake! Damaging parts beyond repair, or caking them in loads of harsh paint is where I take issue with modding pieces. But this right here, 2 simple coats of black and silver Sharpie, will come off easily enough with some rubbing alcohol and a bit of nail polish remover. With those minor details out of the way, we are on to play features and posability. Up top, that relatively simplistic CCBS construction gives way to a very posable neck. He can look up and down, crane his head forward and back, giggity giggity. He's got one exceptional ab crunch, but still no waist swivel. These ball joint connections would have been fine on their own had the wings not been so heavy. That lumbar support works wonders. Onto his whittle arms. Ball joint, ball joint, ball joint. And then a bunch of little hinges. Onto the wings, they are anchored at 2 points along the back. Of course, the primary mounts that are the ratchet joints can only control sideways rotation. The secondary mount controls the distance between his wings and the ground, pivoting them along this ball joint hinge. For both the sake of traction and mental health, I included several rubberized parts throughout the build. But this lovely boy couldn't exactly stand were it not for those killer pegs below his hips. An Ica torso plus CCBS arms. This is rapidly becoming a favorite technique of mine. I use it on my self-mock as well. That video is coming, I promise. It works fantastic for keeping him upright and plumping him out towards the trunk. That actually looks really, really flat. It also lets him cross his legs like the Sassy mute that he is. God, he's such a slut. Leg can go forward and back that far. This construction gives him a pretty steep knee bend without the need for a double joint. Ending at his feet, he's got these rubber nubs, which, like the wings, let him grip the ground and keep his stance secure. While one could argue that the limited range of motion with the wings and the legs is the price of unrealistic style points, I do have a counter argument. Beauty is pain. Even if he can't hold up his wings, if he needs rubber to stand up straight, if most of the pose freedom is in his arms and neck, my lady boy bat thing still looks damn good. The final result is the culmination of every compromise I was willing to make in order to achieve this shape. And I, frankly, am without shame, am I peddling an unrealistic body standard for women? No, I am peddling an unrealistic body standard for the human race. Give or take a couple of pounds. Noma paid me $50 to do it.